Everyone, welcome to the Business Growth Pod. I'm your host, Alan Draper. Thanks. You know what? Thanks for joining me this week. I know that you're busy. I know that you're probably listening to this while you're driving to work or you're on the treadmill or whatever. Business owners and entrepreneurs, we're busy. We have a lot of things that we're juggling in our lives, and so I don't say that enough. Thank you for listening, for sharing your time with me. Make sure to leave me a review. Make sure to follow me or subscribe to this podcast, whatever platform that you're listening to it on. And let me know how I can do better. Let me know if the guests that I have on and the information that we're providing is actually doing something practical for helping you start and grow your companies. So I'm really excited for our guest today. His name's Andy McDowell. Andy, he's actually an engineer by trade, which is interesting. He spent 22 years with the Boeing Company, and he says that he felt more like a life coach than a boss back then. In 2002, he began his journey into entrepreneurship within a corporation when he was asked to develop an aerospace design consulting business from scratch that would serve the global government market. And he is also the host of Generate Your Value podcast. Make sure to check that out. Make sure to check out Generate Your Value podcast, where he discusses issues around personal brand management and small business success. So great to have you, Andy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Alan, for inviting me on the show, and hopefully I can generate some value in your listening audience's lives today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that in mind, let's you and I were kind of talking pre-recording about you kind of introduced this idea of asking if the person, the owner, the entrepreneur is in a position to start a business, which I think is a great question. I think far too often people they have an idea and they go to work. And I think every once in a while we need to pause and we need to focus on this developmental point of view, this, this self-improvement process of the owner, not necessarily of other people as well. What concerns do you have with some of these entrepreneurs that just jump in without focusing on this question of, am I ready, personally to start a business?
So I'm a big love versus fear kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And when we have fears in our life, we have a tendency to project our fears onto other people. And that can show up in terms of micromanagement, control, got to have it my way, not your way. I'm not open to your ideas, into how to run the business or build the business. You end up just being a big wall and a big ego. And you're not going to be successful in running the business. You can get away with it if it's just you. But if you're going to start bringing employees in and start leading them and making decisions that greatly affect their lives, then to do it properly, have a better chance of success, you got to start looking inside and say, am I ready, logically, emotionally, and so forth, to be a leader and to make decisions in an effective way that's going to help build your team, instead of the opposite, building up walls and lack of engagement from your employees. And eventually, they say that number one reason why somebody leaves a job is because of their relationship with their boss.
Yeah.
And are you ready to hire people just to have them walk out the door 2, 3, 4 months later because of your leadership style? You're projecting your fears onto them, and you're trying to control things and so forth. And so that's why I'm a big proponent on yes, your business plan is important. The nuts and bolts of revenues, profits, expenses, all those type things are important, but equally important is, are you ready to be a leader?
Yeah, no, I love that idea. And I think it's almost always overlooked. And so I guess it begs the question, what are those personality traits or those interpersonal skills or those leadership skills that someone should evaluate themselves on before starting a business where they're going to hire and build relationships with people? Can we talk about what some of those specific skills are that they need to have?
Sure. Well, I mean, a lot of this is going to come down to your company culture, so to speak. But that I recently did a podcast episode looking at culture from an employee perspective, and I found a list in an article from a survey. Number one item on the list for employee perspective is, does the company respect me?
Mm.
And it was rated on a magnitude. In other words, you not only put what was important to you, but you put it on, sort of a magnitude number on how important that was to you. Respect was 2 times greater than number 2 and 16 times greater than the middle of the road, which is where you found pay and benefits. So the top 5 were what I call emotional value items, like respect. So what are you doing as a leader to create an environment and a conversation in your one-to-one with your employees where they feel like they're respected, that they're seen? We as human beings all want to be seen, so to speak. And the reason why I took the tact of being much more of a life coach than a boss, we all have aspirations and goals. Where are you going? I want to see you, if you're willing to open up the barriers to let me see you, and be a coach and a mentor to help you with your dreams and where you want to go. I had 2 or 3 employees that I did what I could from a Boeing perspective and then send them on their way to another company to go chase their dreams. I had employees that I guided them towards a different position within the company because they wanted to get more into product management or other things that I just couldn't make available to them given my current situation. So are you seeing your employee? Are you having the right conversations? And do they see you as somebody that cares about them as a human being and a person, and helping them to achieve their dreams as much as you're hoping they're going to provide results business-wise for you so that you can achieve your results, which is, as a leader, is your number one thing you're getting graded on, is are you getting the results that the company or those powers to be above you are looking for? Don't be afraid to hire smarter people than yourself.
Yeah.
Give them the goals, give them tools necessary, and help them to help you get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I talk about that a lot. I talk about how a lot of the success that I've experienced has actually been because of my ability to surround myself with successful people, with people that are better at doing things than I am. I'm more of an organizer. I think some of these skills, Andy, a lot of times people don't know whether they have them until they're already in the midst of it, right? Let me give you an example.
Yes.
I used to think that I was really good at encouraging people to come talk to me about things. And it took me a couple of years to realize that I intimidated people, and I didn't mean to. It was just my personality. And so how does somebody go about, before they open their doors, before they're starting to hire, their first set of team members, how do they kind of assess themselves about, provide some type of assessment on these skills that they need?
Well, I always try to, in my performance reviews with my teammates, asking them, how can I be a better boss to you? Is there something that I'm doing that you feel like is a roadblock to you achieving success in your life and in your job? And if in the previous conversations with them, they feel like you've developed a culture or an environment of safety, in other words, they could talk to you about anything honestly and open. Hopefully that then comes out, and that item you mentioned, if they feel like they were intimidated by you, might pop out. And then you might follow up with a question to say, okay, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? My mannerisms? What is it that makes you feel like you're intimidated? I think it's an open and honest dialogue. And are you creating some emotional safety in your conversations that they can be honest with you? and you can take those comments and not, flip the ego switch on and throw it back in their face or something, but say, okay, I'm going to take that as open and honest input and information. I'm going to evaluate how I'm going to change my behavior, my leadership style, or whatever that's going to better match for you as an individual. One of the hardest parts of being a leader is different employees are motivated in different ways. They have different goals and so forth. So
Right.
You have to have some flexible leadership muscles, if you will, to be able to know who you're talking to on the one-on-one and adjust your style appropriately to get the best out of them and engagement from them in your business. It's not easy.
Yeah. What's interesting is the reason why it took me so long to realize that I wasn't, I didn't put out this invitation for people to come talk to me and I was intimidating people, is that they didn't come tell me because I was intimidating them, right? And I didn't know it. And so I think it's so important to create this culture of feedback super early in your company. Provide feedback to going in all directions. And we're working on that really hard with some of my companies right now. I read a book about Netflix, and that was one thing that they did really well. Love them or hate them or something in between. They created this culture of feedback where the lowest man or woman on the totem pole could say something, directly to the CEO through their, platform that they use for feedback. Mm-hmm. And their job was perfectly safe. It didn't affect their pay, didn't affect any type of promotion. It was actually welcomed and encouraged. How important is that to a company that's trying to figure itself out, to a business owner that's trying to figure out their personality flaws and improve? How important is establishing that culture of feedback?
It's extremely important. I wanted to mention to you a tool that we had at the Boeing Company. So we called it a 360 review, where HR would interview your direct supervisor, people from your team, as well as 2 or 3 people that were parallel or left, right of you, and ask certain questions. So you had like a independent review that would hopefully allow people to talk honestly and openly about things. They would gather all the statement and then develop some bullet points of things that you need to consider or think about for yourself or change leadership style or whatever, in order to provide an environment where people would speak more openly and freely about your leadership style. And it was a very effective tool for me. I had to make some changes in my leadership style. And I even got an executive coach prior to me because of it. It really helped me to work on those issues. But that's another mechanism that you can use, is to try and bring in an independent person and do some interviewing. And mm-hmm. You create anonymity because you're sort of condensing the comments into just bullet points. So there's no way a leader could go out and try and retaliate against somebody for some comments that were made.
Yeah. And we've struggled, right? Because we're going from a company that we don't really say, negative things about somebody, something that's not, something that's constructive, right? Is what we mm-hmm. say, to avoid the word negative. And in this Netflix book, they talked about how you could say for every positive thing that you said about somebody, you needed to provide 2 things that they could work on. And I thought that was interesting, right, because we're kind of conditioned to go the other way. But Netflix, they're what they were pushing is, hey, this isn't to make people feel good, okay? And a lot of times mm-hmm. it has the opposite effect, because it's really natural for human beings to get defensive when somebody says, hey, yes, I didn't like the way you talked to me. I think you could do better, approaching people in a different way. And so it's so natural for us to immediately, we go on the defensive. How do we, in this process of getting feedback, and we've talked about how important it is to early companies and companies across that spectrum, how do we do that? How do we create that culture and make sure people, encourage them to not get defensive?
Yeah, so there's some things that are out of your control with your employee. what is their ego, what things might trigger them from past pains or hurts from childhood or whatever type things that the employee sort of needs to own. But outside of that, it's, once again, creating a culture of safety and trust. So are you the type boss that says, oh, you need to go work on this and that, and all right, be on your way, go figure it out, go do it on your own, and hopefully we'll see some improvement out of you in 6 months? Or are you giving feedback expressed in a proper way, and then say, oh, by the way, I want to help you with this. Let's schedule some extra time just on this subject and talk about it. Or I'm going to reach out to HR and get you a resource. In other words, does the employee feel like you've got their back?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see you be. I want to see you be successful. I want to be your partner in this, and let's go get it done. I'm going to use my title or resources, whatever, to find ways to make it happen for you. After that, it's up to the employee, right? I can give you positive or constructive feedback. I can give you the tools, but if you just sit in your chair and don't do anything with it, that's on you. But I'm going to do what's in my control to develop a culture of safety and trust, and be your partner in helping you with this, because I know I'm going to get better results from you out of that. And then it goes back to our results conversation, right?
Yeah, I like this idea. What I heard from you is, I think there's a couple of ways that we can provide this constructive feedback to people, talk about things that they can work on to develop and improve, which is huge to any type of organization, in a way that they don't get defensive. One is, don't just tell them to tell them. And I think that happens too much in our society. There's so much negativity going around on the news and everything else right now. And, but it just seems to be negative and not have a purpose. But you're saying, hey, set aside some time and invest some time and money and resources, whatever you have at your disposal, to help this person. And I think that's a great point, because then they look at it as, oh, they're not wanting to fire me because of this. They're wanting me to improve and they're investing in me. So maybe I can take down some of those walls and be open to the feedback.
Yeah, well, it takes the focus off of saying it's all about me, right?
Exactly.
So, if I'm a boss, I have a title, I have accountability, I want to get results, and I could care less about you as an employee. I don't respect you. I don't see you.
Mm-hmm.
You get a salary and benefits, and the expectation is you're going to deliver, and you're not delivering. So what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that'll turn around in 2 months and leave. But if you say, I hired you on as an employee because I want to be a partner with you, I want to be a teammate with you, we together are going to go down this journey of trying to deliver for the company and the industry and our customers. And I don't want any weak links in the team. So let's go at it. Let's have you work. You just came on board. Let's work for 6 months, year, see what you got. And from that, we're going to put a game plan together to make you extremely successful and help you chase your dreams. And I'm going to be in your bullpen, so to speak, to help you do that.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think that helps people take down the walls of being defensive. I think there's a right way to go about it without sugarcoating it, right? Just, if there's some issues that need to be addressed, there's a right way to do it. And we're adults, right? We don't need to patronize people. We don't want to be rude or, belligerent about it. But there's a right way to address this with the intention of not picking at them or belittling them or making them feel small, but of making some improvement. And I honestly think that the best employees and the best team members and the folks that stick around are those that are getting some non-monetary benefit out of work, whether it's taking on a challenge with coworkers, developing relationships with coworkers. And another big one, I think, is personal development. Would you agree with that?
Life skills, right? So I'm a firm believer that the number one job of a leader is to build other leaders. And you don't need to have a title to be a leader. At the very least, you should be a leader of your life. And that's why I took an approach as a life coach, is to say, okay, you're going to be a leader. You're a CEO of your life. Where are you going? What's your strategy? And that could be anything from our time here at work and a career. That could be as a husband, as father, life in general. What's your why in life? Are you living your why out loud? And if not, and you're willing to go down that road with me, then let's talk about it. Let's develop that life strategy for you, of which your time here at X company and so forth is going to be part of that. If you can take that approach, you'll have their heart, you'll have their minds. You know, they you say, I need you to do something. It's okay. How high? Kind of attitude with them, because you are, just as you said, you are investing in their success, even if they don't want the title of a leader. There's different ways to be leaders. You can be an influential leader in a team or an office or so forth without having a title of manager, senior manager, director, whatever type titles, because leadership's all about influence from that perspective. And so it's just one more reason why I feel like if you can take an attitude of being a life coach or a leader of leaders and help your employees, the more you're going to get out of them, the more they're going to be engaged, the more they're going to see your vision for your team and the bigger company, and the better results you're going to get. Just a better leadership strategy.
Yeah, I love it. Kind of going back to this topic of providing feedback, I think a second way that we can encourage a culture of feedback is for the leaders themselves to make themselves vulnerable, where they receive feedback and they demonstrate how they can receive this feedback without being defensive.
Absolutely. You got to model it, right? That's what we ask of all of our leaders in our organization is we have a certain value set that's a huge part of our culture. And how are you as a leader modeling that value set so that everybody else underneath you follows in line? Yeah, oftentimes, executives and leaders don't build incentive models for their leadership team and executives that draw that out. They talk a good game in terms of, well, this is the values of our corporation and this is our mission and vision and so forth. But then they go create incentive programs. It's all about the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think that
a little bit of an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, it's confusing when leaders are saying one thing and doing another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us to lead by example with something that's as important as company culture, being consistent with our vision, accepting feedback for positive change, and all of this, we have to. We do have to talk about it, right? We have to be able to talk about it. Hey, we have a company that honors feedback and we receive it, but we also have to demonstrate it. We have to lead from the front and do the hard things that we're asking our people to do. I don't think I should ask something of anyone that I'm not willing to do as a business leader. Is that a principle that you think is important for early entrepreneurs and people that are kind of developing some of these personal skills to start businesses?
Absolutely. That's just one form or one way of showing vulnerability, right? Is to say, I'm not above you. I'm a human being and I'm going to do the same things I'm asking of you. And that's just going to create a better connection with your employees when you can model it. It's not do as I say, do as I do.
Exactly. And I think employees, personnel, team members, they appreciate when somebody understands. And a lot of times leaders, to be frank, we don't understand. We don't understand unless we're there shoulder to shoulder with them. Now, I think that begs the question, how do I, as a leader, scale my company while focusing on the vision and our core values, the why behind what the company is about? How do I do those things, but still be in tune with what's happening with the boots on the ground?
Well, that's what gave Tom Peters his career, right? Management by walking around, spending time with your employees, getting to know them, asking the questions of, okay, what is it about our strategy you don't understand? What can I clear up for you? How can I paint a picture that shows how what you do in your job contributes to our why, our business, our product set, and therefore our profits, right?
That's so good.
A lot of what employees are asking themselves every day, but they don't state it, is, particularly when you have a company as big as I was in Boeing.
Yeah.
All these strategies come from people that are about 10 steps above you in an organizational chart. And, I had this problem sitting down with my team, trying to come up with team goals for the year and trying to figure out how a service business fits into a manufacturing company. And where do we fit in this? I almost felt like I sometimes had to write convoluted words in sentences to sort of force fit a square into a round hole. And sometimes, I was given the shoulder salute like this, like I'm just as lost as you are in this, but let's put our best effort together. And that may be something that could be cleared up from, a vice president that's 6 steps above you or 3 steps above you that could come down. And if they're visiting and trying to understand how your business fits into the big picture, can answer those questions for you. But if you never take the time to manage by walking around and visiting offices and employees, you're never providing that opportunity for that conversation to have that cleared up, for employees to feel like you're respecting them, you're somewhat honoring them with your presence because of your title. You're both human beings, but one has a bigger title than the other. And get that engagement and feel like they're part of the team. Otherwise, one of the things that frustrated me at Boeing was I'd walk in on January 1st and I would look around and ask my teammates, okay, what color are we this year? And by that, it means they were always playing around with the organizational structure that didn't ever make sense with the business strategy. And, I can't tell you how many bosses I had within Boeing. Nobody knew what to do with us, and we're just sort of passing this around. All right, you figure out what to do with these guys. Or you figure out what to do with these guys, right? And if you had more higher ups walking around and visiting and understanding what the team does and how you could leverage their skills and talents and what they brought to the table to the bigger picture, you might get better results. But instead, you've got people sitting there scratching their heads trying to force fit your team goals into this big strategy, and it ends up being a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that you said is that as leaders and as business owners, one of our most important jobs, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that we help individuals, not departments, not teams, but individuals. We help them understand the significance of what they do on a daily basis in the mission of the company. And that is, I think it's overlooked a lot. I don't think it's done enough. And it takes a lot of work so that people understand, like, hey, yeah, I heard the story about a janitor, right, in a hospital, and someone asked him what he did, and he said, well, I help maintain the safety of this facility so people don't get sick. He didn't say that he was cleaning toilets, right? Nope. And as a leader, it's our job as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, it's our job to make sure that our team members understand what it is that they're doing and the significance of that in the entire, mission of the company.
Yeah, so we're human beings on the face of the earth, right? Human beings have needs. food, shelter, but one of their big needs is to feel like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves. And a business has the opportunity to really fulfill that for somebody. But they have to understand where they fit into the picture. I'm spending 40 plus hours of my life. Yes, I'm getting the salary and benefits, but I'm spending 40 hours of my life every week to come to this organization. And I want to know that my work matters, that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself. And how can you evaluate yourself as a company that you're providing that form? You're doing the right messaging out of your leadership team and so forth, that your employees understand that.
Yep. I mean, it's huge, and it's overlooked. A lot of times business owners say, no, that's not my job. That's their job. Their job is to figure out what their purpose is. Their job is to, and that's fine if you want high turnover and, have a difficult time keeping the best people.
Yep, exactly.
We're running short on time. This has been fantastic. What are, just kind of closing thoughts here. What are some good resources, whether they're books or podcasts, that you're either, taking advantage of right now, or, some of your favorite books in the past that you've read to help young entrepreneurs?
Well, from a personal development perspective, I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan.
Excellent.
I'm a huge Brene Brown fan from those perspectives. I'm still a huge Tom Peters fan. In Search of Excellence is one of the first business books I ever read in my life. Still relevant today from a leadership perspective. Anything that you can find that's going to help you as a leader to understand that it. Another one, Mark Crowley, Leading from the Heart, huge fan, and I have engaged with him multiple times on Twitter from that perspective. I actually bought his book, Lead from the Heart, after I read it. I bought like 10 copies and gave out to colleagues and teammates. I was just that fond of bringing in the heart into the equation, in terms of leadership. And I think the pandemic is going to start forcing that on us to a certain respect. So anything podcast wise, like yourself, mine, others, that bring these topics in for the discussion, where the main emphasis is trying to help you and grow you, is going to be beneficial. But I personally am trying to send a message, going back to our thought about human needs. The business is a structure that goes out to try to fulfill needs in the world, either in a B2C or a B2B perspective, right?
Exactly.
So in my coaching practice, and I'm in the middle of writing a book, what I'm trying to bring to the conversation is that why then can we not use business strategy tools to a person's life? So a quick example, common strategy tools, SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Change opportunity to love and threat to fear, in helping you to develop a life strategy for yourself. So going back to, come full circle to our conversation today, get involved in personal development. Make sure you're bringing your best self to the table, because you want to make the right decisions for your people, because they're going to be impacted by them. And then you can start diving into books about profits, revenues, supply chain, strategy, those type things are going to help you out. But you got to prepare yourself first before you then start diving into prepare for the business.
Yeah,
and that's my angle.
No, I love it. I think sometimes business owners overlook this concept of, I am not going to be able to build businesses and build teams and build leaders that is above my current level. And so in order for us to continue to build and improve and succeed in the business world, we have to improve on a personal level. And sometimes we're spending so much time in our businesses, so much time with employees, and so much time making sure that, the financial statements are making sense and making it worth it, that we're not working on ourselves, and we're doing a disservice to all those around us and to our businesses.
Well, let me throw another question at you. Starting the business is not easy. It's going to be a tough road for 1, 2, 3 years. Do you have the perseverance and the wherewithal, the internal strength, so to speak, to get you through the rough times until momentum catches up with you and your business starts taking off?
Exactly.
Because if you don't have that, you'll never make it.
Yep. Nope. I think you're exactly right. Andy, how do people reach out to you, find out more about what you're accomplishing, and learn more about what you're able to help them with?
So my website is www.generateyourvalue. That's the name of my company and the name of my podcast. I do a podcast with a co-host. And by the way, we're going to have you on our podcast in a couple of weeks. Looking forward
to that. Yep. I'm
on the major platforms. I have both personal pages and business pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm also a landscape photographer. So if you want to go see some of my work, hit my personal Instagram page at Earspace Dude.
Awesome. Love it. Well, folks, he is Andy McDowell. He clearly knows his stuff. And I can tell just by the book references that he gave us and those authors where his head's at. And, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek. I'm a huge fan of focusing on the company vision and the purpose of our lives before we act. And so make sure to check him out. Make sure to check out his podcast, Generate Your Value Podcast. Follow him on social media. And I'll be sure to post when I'm on your show. So thanks so much, Andy. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate what you're doing out in the world, the platform that you're building. And thank you so much for generating your value in this world.
My pleasure.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.